Some pseudo-conservative conciliar Catholics claim that religious liberty is really nothing more than a pastoral disposition. Because it was not appropriate in the past, the Church would have proscribed it, and rightfully so, for almost 2 millennia. Things having suddenly changed, a holy pope, enlightened by the Holy Ghost, would have understood on the eve of May 68th that a radical change was an absolute necessity to adapt ourselves to our times. Although this was a 180-degree reversal, unknown until then and in total opposition to the previous teaching of the magisterium, this doctrine would nevertheless remain entirely conform to Catholic tradition. Dignitatis Humanae, however, formally contradicts such an opinion. It is written in black and white, as we have seen in a previous excerpt, that religious freedom doesn't have its foundation in the subjective disposition of the person, but in his very nature. We must recognize that if human nature does not change according to one's intentions, it does not change either according to the time or place. It has been the same since the creation of Adam and will always remain so. God would therefore have wanted, according to the conciliar Church, that this political regime be always observed in all places. He would never have seen it appropriate to consider the innumerable geopolitical situations that countries might encounter, because a right based on human nature must logically be respected regardless of all circumstances. Dignitatis Humanae confirms what I have said when it states the following. Consequently, in order that relationships of peace and harmony be established and maintained within the whole of mankind, it is necessary that religious freedom be everywhere provided with an effective constitutional guarantee, and that respect be shown for the high duty and right of man freely to lead his religious life in society. Not only does this passage tell us that religious freedom is a supreme right, but also that it should be provided everywhere. This confirms that this doctrine is universal, but also timeless. Indeed, if it is relevant in our time everywhere, then what argument can be advanced to affirm that it was not so in the past? The geopolitical situations of all the countries in the world have always been radically different from one another. No one can pretend that since the 1960s, living conditions in the four corners of the world have suddenly become similar and uniform. If it were just a matter of adapting to the modern world, religious freedom could only be appropriate in certain places that meet certain very specific criteria. One would have to be a fool to claim that Catholic Poland, anti-clerical France, and Muslim Saudi Arabia needed the same policy at the same time. This document does not establish the slightest criterion because, as it itself says very well, religious freedom doesn't have its foundation on a subjective disposition. Dignitatis Humanae even adds, the declaration of this Vatican Council on the right of man to religious freedom has its foundation in the dignity of the person, whose exigencies have come to be fully known to human reason through centuries of experience. Here again, human dignity is not a criterion dependent on time or place. It is exclusively a matter of human beings taken out of all external considerations. Let those who still want to claim that this doctrine is merely a pastoral disposition explain to us why, before Vatican II, one could still deprive a man of religious freedom without being afraid of violating his dignity. Whether we are in King David's Israel, the Kingdom of St. Louis, or the Republic of Marianne, to prevent an individual, even a malicious one, from showing the special value of his doctrine would have been, therefore, a grave sin. Moreover, this excerpt states very clearly that the exigencies of dignity would have come to be through centuries of experience fully known to human reason. These exigencies, you have understood, include the pseudo-right of mankind to religious freedom. If these exigencies for religious freedom had come to be fully known to human dignity through centuries of experience, it means, by definition, that there would have been exigencies long before the Second Vatican Council. Dignitatis Humanae thus affirms that religious freedom is not a pastoral provision, but an inherent characteristic of every human being.